Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today our guest is Will Harvey. Thanks for being on the show, Will.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Whitney. Honored to be here.
Will is a partner in a syndication group called CEO Capital Partners, as well as a host of the Wealth Junkies podcast. His background is in lending, and he recently left a high-paying role in that space to focus full-time on growing the podcast and the company. Before all of this, he was strung out on drugs and alcohol and hit rock bottom in late 2012 before getting sober. So, Will, I'm thankful, and I know the listeners are as well, that you were able to get sober. So many people are not able, and it's a horrible thing. But I'm thankful for your success through that and what you've accomplished since then, and look forward to seeing just more success from you and your all's group. I know your other team members pretty well, and they're just some great people. But Will, tell the listeners a little more about who you are and what your focus is right now, and let's jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I got sober back early 2013. It was a total God thing. I'm a Christian, and the stars kind of aligned for that. And it was really, really cool how that happened. And God worked some awesome things in my life, and basically smacked me upside the head. So after that, I got real focused and walked onto a football team in a college in Ohio. I played football there until I had double hip surgery. And that's when I came home again and I got into the mortgage business. So a family friend got me started doing that. And it was either between that or starting as a realtor, and I chose the mortgage route. So sat for about 13 months, learned the business, and really processed loans, did grunt work, and I hated every second of it. But it was good to just get me to learn what I was doing and know what to say to people and all of that. So after that, I got out into sales, and the first year I just kind of ate, slept, and would breathe mortgages. And I had a decent first year and made good money and bought some houses, and next year, did even better, improved on the year before. And I started hating it because I felt like a hamster on a wheel. It was kind of the worst of both worlds, if you will, because I was W-2. So I wasn't able to itemize anything on my taxes. I wasn't able to write off anything. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act got rid of unreimbursed business expense for W-2 employees. So that was gone. And at the same time, I'm 100% commission. So that's kind of the worst of both worlds. So, and then a few things happened, rates rose, and I just realized how people just were not loyal at all. And I was basically just a commodity. The mortgage business is very commoditized these days. I'm sure people have seen ads online for Rocket Mortgage saying just call our 800 number and get a mortgage or all that. So I knew that the business was shifting, and at the same time I felt like a hamster on a wheel, and that I wasn't building any wealth other than the real estate that I was buying. So from there I decided that I was gonna somehow get out of it, and I did that from learning about syndication, learning about apartments. Multifamily was what I gravitated towards because I had a background. I had a few houses at that time, so I understood tenants and just how that all worked. And I kind of set my sights on leaving and just educating myself at that point.
Nice. So, but wait a minute, you had it was a W-2, it was commission. However, you said you were a high income earner.
Yeah.
But you still left it so you could go do this real estate thing. I mean, people, called me crazy for wanting to do that, and I wonder, tell me about your transition there and just how you developed the comfort level to actually leave that W-2. Cause I know there's a lot of listeners who are in the same shoes.
Oh yeah. My my boss thought I had relapsed and that I was back on drugs when when I told him that, because I told him about a year before I left, that was my plan. I didn't want to blindside him or anything. So I told him that I was going to phase out. And yeah, he kind of thought I was on drugs and told me I was crazy. And a lot of other people told me that it was a crazy idea too. But I'm really glad I did it. And you asked how I prepared. Is that right?
Yes. How did you have the confidence to do that? Even though, all these people are saying, wait a minute, you're doing something wrong here, Will.
Well, I started talking to people, and that's the thing, is that I was initially asking the wrong people for advice. I was asking unqualified people for advice when I shouldn't have. So anybody that's listening, don't ask somebody for advice if they're not in a position to give it. Like if you see someone that's worked a job for 40 years and been in the same place and been pretty stagnant, they're probably not the person to ask about leaving a job. So that's my advice. And that's what I did wrong. I was just asking the wrong people for advice, and they'd tell me, no, you shouldn't do that. And to be honest, if I would have gotten good advice from the start, I probably would have left a lot sooner. So to build the confidence, what I did was I kept my expenses very low. So they've always been really low, even as my income has went up. I kept my expenses pretty low. So that was one thing that keep, I have no kids at this point. I don't have a wife. Both of those things are very expensive, I've heard. so I was able to do that. And I also padded my savings account and just made sure to have some rainy day money in the bank. So that's what gave me the confidence. And I knew I had the entrepreneurial spirit to get out there and not sink when I left the job.
Tell me about, when you said you were asking the wrong people for advice, and you have to know who you need to speak to, right? You need to know who those mentors need to be. But tell me, maybe tell me a little about that person that you found that started giving you good advice. And you don't have to tell me who they are, but
Sure.
just like who is that? Like, is that somebody who is a very successful business owner? Maybe they were already successful in real estate. Maybe they were, I don't know, just a father figure to you. What made them stand out as that person that was, the right one to give you the advice to make this happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was one guy that I knew. He's local to me up in Northern Virginia, and a family friend, known him a long, long time. He's a buddy of my dad's, and just have known his family forever. I'm talking to him, and he developed he pretty much went all in on it was a self-storage facility in 2000. So it was a long time ago, and it was in an area that wasn't that developed. And he kind of knew that it was going to be developed, and it was just a grand slam home run. And he sold it a few years ago, and he hasn't, he was pretty much retired at a very, very young age, and just very entrepreneurial. And he told me that he thought the idea was great. He thought it was an awesome idea to leave my job, and of course he did, because he's an entrepreneur, and he did the same thing. So there was him, and there were a few other people that I probably will miss, but one other person that I was talking to, they weren't even really an entrepreneur. They worked at like I said, I was in the mortgage business. They were at a title company. And I remember I was at some event, and I was telling them what I was thinking about doing. I was thinking about leaving the business, and that a lot of other people had told me I was crazy. I told her that, and she said, well, you know what? When people say that an idea is crazy, that usually means it's a good one. So that was really encouraging to hear.
So how did you find that first individual?
I knew him. He was a family friend.
Yeah. Okay.
So
okay.
Once I started with all this and had it in my head, real estate, property, I took him out to lunch and asked him about just how debt worked and commercial debt and all that stuff, and how he bought that self-storage place. And so he gave me great advice.
So how did you know that you could support yourself? Like, you leave the W-2, you have some income, you have good income, you said. How do you know you can support yourself to go off and do this, start to grow this other business?
Yeah, so part of it was a burn the ships approach for sure, but at the same time, leading up to me leaving, it was very I was very blessed because rates dropped. I was able to refi one of the properties I owned and shave a bunch off the monthly payment, so that was nice. And then I had a couple properties that are in just rapidly appreciating areas, and I was able to raise rent on a couple of them. So it was kind of the perfect storm of refining a property, doing a rate term refi, and lowering the monthly payment, and also raising rent on a few properties that I own outright. And I also have invested passively in a apartment deal. So I had that, and then everything that our company is doing. We're very new, so there's we're relatively new to all that, but still there's income from there, and that's just I kind of again, it was a burn the ships approach, and I just knew that I was resourceful enough to make it work.
So tell me now about how you jumped into starting and growing a business. That you're leaving the W-2. So obviously, I love the burn the ships approach and that acronym or that analogy. And so tell me about how you transitioned to start to, or so you're going to be successful in growing this business. Leaving the W-2 right into that. What were some things you were working on or had to do to make that happen?
Yeah, so at the very beginning of last year, or at the late 2018, I got linked up with like you said, Brandon and Stuart, and we just kind of hit it off right off the bat. Brandon and I had known each other from high school. Stuart coached me in little league football a long time ago, so we knew each other there, but hadn't really talked in a while, in years. But we reconnected when I saw that they were looking for multifamily deals, and we came together. And there was a property early last year that we had our LOI accepted. My group was going to help raise capital. It was myself and two others that I had, and Brandon Stewart had found the deal. They were going to raise money as well, so we were going to partner on that and just JV it. But long story short, the deal, we ended up killing it. It was a 48 unit property. The current owners we found out, were running it as a motel, or I'm sorry, it was zoned as a motel, but they were operating it as a market rate apartment. So it was a big no. We would have had to change the zoning, and we just weren't going to do that. So killed that deal. And then we really didn't have anything on the horizon, but we all had worked really well together leading up to that. So we just all decided to kind of merge and form the new company, which is CEO Capital Partners. So
Nice.
that was I would say, to answer your question there, I knew I had great partners in them, and that all of us kind of putting our brains together. It was me and two others, and then Brandon and Stuart. So now the five of us putting our brains together, it has been really special and really, really cool.
One thing that has made me successful is something that most people don't think of. It's the way that I've branded myself online. If you want to brand yourself to raise more capital, then I suggest working with my friend Adam Adams. So go ahead, scroll down, and find the link in the show notes. Nice. So tell me some things you've learned about, joining in a partnership like that.
I think it's the whole Bill Belichick, do your job thing. Everybody has a different role, and they all bring something different to the table. So that's really it's identifying what you bring to the table, and what maybe what you don't bring to the table, what you're not so good at, and how you can find a partner to offset that. For instance, we started a podcast, Wealth Junkies, and our starting out, I've never been a big Facebook guy, big social media guy. And Stuart's like, dude, you kind of need to do all this if you want to have a successful podcast. So Brandon and I talked. Brandon's like, look, I'll take the lead on that. I'll kind of be at the forefront of all the social media stuff. You just kind of be in the background, be the hype man, comment on some things here and there. And that's what we did. And it's been great. I'm not out of my element doing a ton of social media stuff. But at the same time, we all have a role in the podcast, and everything else that we're doing in our business. So I hope that was a good example.
Yeah. Yeah. And what are some other ways that you all are focused on to help grow your business right now?
Right now we're really putting a lot of time and effort into the podcast at the moment. So we got to the point where we had done a few deals. We had partnered on a few deals. We were able to raise some capital and go in as co-sponsors on a few different deals. But then we realized that we just needed to build a bigger platform to be able to reach a bigger audience. So that's when we kind of took a step back. We're like, let's pump the brakes. Let's focus on this, and it'll allow us to propel a lot further.
I know there's listeners who are debating about starting a podcast, or they've just started one. I mean, I get calls every week about how to start a podcast, how we've been successful podcasting, especially doing as many shows as we do. I know you all are also doing a lot of shows. And so, give a couple of tips that you all learned in just being successful in promoting your podcast.
Yeah, sure. So one thing we did that was really helpful was leading up. I mean, people say I want to start a podcast, and we said that Brandon had the bright idea to do it daily. He was inspired by you and Joe Fairless. So thank you so much, Whitney, for creating so much work for us and making us do a daily show. No, I'm just kidding. But what we realized leading up to launching was that there are so many moving parts that we just had no idea about. People think, you just start a podcast, throw it out there, and that's that. But there's so many moving parts behind the scenes. So leading up, we were just like, we're not ready. We need to hire a consultant or something. So that's exactly what we did. We hired a very, very helpful consultant. His name was Jürgen Burkessel with Polymash. And he helped us. It was night and day. He helped us understand SEO and just how to get at the top of the search results, and that was instrumental. So luckily we had some capital behind it, so that was what helped us be able to do that. So
I think it's great advice, because there are so many moving parts that when you're just listening to the podcast, at the gym or, whatever, on your way to work, like, you just have no idea how much work goes into producing something like this, especially this many shows a month. And so it's awesome.
Right.
Yeah. I'd love, we all should get together sometime and talk about the war stories of a daily podcast.
Oh man, we could talk for days about it.
But hiring a consultant, like, I didn't do that that was just focused on podcasting, and I can look back now and, I could have probably, skipped a lot of hard lessons, as far as specifically in podcasting. I mean, I had a coach in real estate and other things. I'm a strong believer in having a mentor and even many mentors. But as far as in podcasting, that would have been so helpful. So, but what was a couple of key things that we need to know if we're fixing to start a podcast, or maybe if we've already started one?
Yeah. So I would work on, however, and this is less of, like I said, Brandon does the social media. This is the part that I just absolutely hate, but it's very necessary, is how are you going to deliver all the different content? How are you going to deliver it to all the different mediums? How are you going to deliver it to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram? There's so much. And if you're doing a daily show and are making posts daily, we're making multiple posts a day. How are you going to do all that without driving yourself insane? So we got turned on to this platform where it essentially syndicates it out to all those different places, and it has a built-in SEO score analyzer where you can see the SEO and how well it's going to do with search results, and you can kind of tweak things. So I would say that was probably the biggest. That's probably the biggest piece.
Can you share what that platform is, or that you all?
Yeah, sure. It was. It's called Story Chief.
Story Chief. Okay,
Yeah.
We've looked at different ones and have done different things, but that's interesting. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's been night and day. It's been very helpful.
Wow. Okay, so
we love it.
So what about? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we just love it, and it makes our life a lot easier.
Any other ways as far as branding that you can help the listener, that's getting started, and maybe they're thinking about a podcast, but maybe there's other things that they need to have in place. They're fixing to leave their W-2, or they're wanting to, and they're trying to get their business off the ground. It's a couple things that you've learned and that they need to know.
Yeah, I would just start telling people, start taking people out to lunch. That I had success with that when I was starting out. Just get kind of a mini following, if you will. Start telling people what you're doing. Get belly to belly, as they say, over lunch, and learn about them, ask questions, tell them what they're doing, get advice. Seek advice from some trusted individuals that you know and trust. And in doing so, they're going to see what you're doing and maybe help you and point you in the right direction. So I hope that's what I did. And not everybody does that, but that's what worked for me.
Your network is so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a little food doesn't hurt anything, right?
That's right. Nobody can I always felt like I felt a lot. I try not to be salesy in anything I do. When I was in the mortgage business, I hated being called a salesman. And I hated coming across that way. So I was always cognizant of that and respecting people's time. But if I'm offering to pay for lunch, I feel like I'm a lot more confident asking for a meeting.
Yeah. So Will, what's been the hardest part of this syndication journey for you?
I think for me, it's probably been adapting to the just using social media and all of that stuff, because I am a pretty I'm a pretty under the radar type of person. That's just how I've been for a long time. So I'm still not fully comfortable doing it. I've gotten a lot better. You won't see me making any Facebook Live videos or anything like that anytime soon, unless it's our podcast. I'm more comfortable there. But when people are driving, making Facebook Live videos, you won't see me doing that anytime soon. So I think the biggest piece has been has been that, and just recognizing that you kind of have to do some of it, or you at least have to have somebody on your team that's gonna do that side of things.
Yeah, I don't plan to do any Facebook Lives while I'm driving. I mean, that's kind of giving somebody solid evidence that you're distracted driving, right?
Tell Stuart. I think Stuart has done that, so maybe we should get on him about that.
So how are you or your team prepared for this potential downturn that's coming? That everybody's saying is coming anyway.
Yeah, so we're being real selective, and really we're obviously deals are super tight, super hard to come by. Cap rates are so compressed right now. It seems like a lot of people are overpaying for what they're buying. So what we're doing is just being really picky, and also identifying good partners that we know, like, and trust to work with. So that's been the main thing, is just staying really cautiously optimistic, I think is the mindset that we have right now.
What's a way you've recently improved your business that we could apply to ours?
I'm trying to think of one that's not starting a podcast. That's really the biggest thing. And we've gotten some inquiries. We've gotten a lot of we've only been launched for about a little over a month, and we've already seen the value and power in it. So
good.
I think I'm going to have to say that.
Awesome. And so tell me your best advice for caring for an investor so they want to come back to the next opportunity.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
So how do we care? What's your best advice for taking care of an investor so they want to come back to the next deal that you have?
So just being very transparent with everything you're doing, being very responsive, whether it's you or someone on your team. Just have a system in place so that they're responded to very quickly, and be available to them, or at least have someone on your team who's available to them. I've found that we've had success with that. We've had a few challenging investors that will nitpick some of the details, and they're entitled to do that. They're putting up a lot of hard-earned money. So we've just dealt with that by being very responsive and being, very being an open book, essentially. just explaining everything on the front end so that there's no questions down the road.
What's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
That's a good question. I would say it is talking to people and hearing their stories. So when I was first getting started in the mortgage business, and leading up to when I left the mortgage business, I would constantly be trying to meet with people and just get them to tell their stories to me, because I just got so much value in that, and it really breaks the ceiling off of any limiting beliefs that you put on yourself. And I would see that person say, yeah, we did this volume, then next year we doubled and tripled. And it was just like, oh man, if they could do it, then I can too. So that's been very, very valuable to me, is just talking to people and hearing their stories.
Wow. And so I couldn't agree more. Your network is so important, and that the counsel you receive. So, tell me how you like to give back.
So my mom, she started my mom and dad started an orphanage in Haiti about 12 years ago. It was 2008. And I go there. I just as this is recorded, I recently got back from there, and I support them financially and also with my time in going to Haiti. So
wow.
That's what I love.
That's awesome. Well, I'm grateful for your family, how they give back in that way, and building, moving somewhere like that, building an orphanage, caring for lots of other people like that. That's just a servant heart right there, and very grateful for that and for what you all are doing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for, walking us through how you, left your W-2 job and really, just like you said, burned the ships and committed to this real estate business, and why you wanted to do that, and a little about your team and your all's progress and your growth and how you've done that is amazing. So thank you for sharing that. Tell the listeners though how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Whitney, for having me on the show. What listeners can get in touch by listening to our podcast. It's just called Wealth Junkies. So they can check that out on Stitcher, Apple, wherever they listen to. And they can also email me, will@wealthjunkies.com.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.